Transparent displays have been one of the biggest stories at CES this year, which is cool, but why? Well, it turns out I had to leave the show floor and the strip entirely to find an actually good reason for a transparent display. Veeo is a smaller company that has a pretty big idea about what these transparent displays can actually be used for. And that's solving one of the biggest problems with video conferencing, which is like, you're never looking at the camera. So they put a camera behind it and it looks like, well, that's no good. This is the Veeo Holodeck T55, a 55-inch transparent display. And as you can see right here, there's a big old camera hiding behind it. I guess it's not really hiding, it is transparent. But it's not just any webcam. It's a specially selected webcam by Veeo that helps overcome some of the problems that we're seeing on this display right here, like these weird, gross, yucky lines. Why are those lines there anyways? Well, even if it's called a transparent TV, there's some things that just can't be transparent, such as your OLED pixel layer. No matter what, you're gonna see the electronics that are gonna actually emit light. And along with this ghosting, you can see these lines, that's the camera actually picking up the pixels of the OLED display. And the reason there's doing this awful strobing kind of thing is due to the timing of the lighting that we have and the mismatch between the timing of the display. It turns out there's a lot of hardware and software problems to solve to take an image that looks like this and turn it into something that looks like this. But why put the camera behind the display? Isn't that gonna like hurt image quality? Yes, it's gonna hurt it a little bit. But the idea is that it's gonna make video conferencing and communicating way more simple. No more are you gonna be looking up at the top for your webcam when you wanna like really address somebody, or looking at a host of people that are all kind of looking down at their screens, aren't making eye contact, which is like, you know, remember how tiring that was in COVID? There's a lot of people who are still doing tons of video conferencing and are still getting the same weird exhaustion from all of the strange communication errors that happen because of video. Now this is a 40% transparent display, lets about 40% of the light through. You can see there's a pretty clear difference between my hand being in the front and in the back. And at this size, 55 inches, it is just 1080p resolution. Why? Well, the amount of light you can get through the panel will go down with pixel density, and that's a big problem for these cameras. We've seen behind display cameras before from phones from like Oppo or even Samsung, but the difference is that those had to sacrifice pixel density in a small area, and the big task was trying to hide that camera. Unlike those phones, there is no sacrifice to picture quality for your display on this monitor. Even on smaller models like their 30-inch display, this is a very prototype version of it, they have to maintain that same pixel density, meaning that at 30 inches, you're only getting a 720p display, which not that great. It's not really ideal as, say, your main monitor, but if you're somebody whose work involves a lot of teaching students or making a lot of video calls to clients or something, this would be a great secondary monitor because you can get that extra level of connection. And they do a lot of really cool things with it, and we'll show you that in a bit. But for now, let's talk a little bit more about some of the tech that they've had to introduce to get rid of all of that nastiness. This is the enclosed version of that 30-inch display that we looked at over there. But what it's missing is a software and hardware level of processing for the video. Ignore these lines here. This is part of a lot of the other features that they have jam-packed into this display, like hand tracking. But what I'm trying to get at, as you can see, is that since I put my hand in front, you can see that there's a ghost outline of my fingers, right? I point in, and then suddenly there's this bigger ghosting around here. That's due to internal reflections from going through the layers of glass, which is a problem. But with enough clever software and hardware trickery, they can completely eliminate that. And the final effect, like we saw earlier, is pretty cool. Let's go back to that demo after a word from our sponsor, bequiet. Thanks to bequiet for sponsoring our 2024 CES coverage. If you're shopping for your next PC build or just new components in general, make sure to check out bequiet. Their premium products include power supplies, case fans, PC cases for said case fans, all-in-one water coolers, and high-performance air coolers. With roots in Germany, they've been in the industry for more than 20 years and specialize in making high-quality parts that are hard to hear. This year at CES, they're showcasing new white PC cases, white fans, and even white hard drive cages. Step into the world of quiet cooling with bequiet at the link down below. Now, there's a lot more benefits than just an improvement to the comfort of video chatting. There's actually some evidence that something called embodied learning, where you are seeing a person in the frame doing stuff like moving text around or writing out their thoughts in front of you, kind of like you're in a classroom, brings improved engagement and learning outcomes for students or even just, your coworkers. So a huge benefit of this is now that I can be in the middle of the frame and be teaching stuff to people. Obviously, we don't need to do this via a transparent thing. We don't need to do this, but we're using their conferencing software. You're able to stare directly at people. It makes you feel like you're present, and it's going to improve the experience and even maybe improve learning outcomes for the people that are watching you, which is pretty dang neat. Yeah, we've dimmed the lights and that's gonna help this display, but honestly, it looks pretty good for being, see-through. You can kind of see the camera structure a little bit in the middle, especially when it's like, there's nothing on the display. That's something that we just don't see when you have the enclosed background, because you're not gonna have as much pass-through from behind because, well, it's enclosed. But overall, it's kind of cool. And another interesting thing is that it has a 120 hertz refresh rate. So technically, you could game on it. But obviously, that's not really the target demo for this. And you can kind of get a glimpse of what the target demo is by looking at the pricing. This 55-inch model is gonna go for $8,500, which is a lot, but they're targeting businesses. This is something that you're gonna put in a conference room. It's a tool that's gonna help you make more money. So that's why they're charging that kind of premium. It's not really the consumer-facing device. Going to this smaller 30-inch 720p display that's enclosed, you're gonna be seeing a price tag of $2,500, and the transparent version will be $3,000. They also have a ton of other features that are gonna be put into these monitors. Obviously, we've got these vanity lights. You also have things like hand tracking. They're basically trying to make the ultimate all-in-one solution for communication. And Veeo plans to ship in summer of 2024. And I think what they have right now is pretty dang cool. Thanks to Veeo for letting us take a look at their display tech, and thank you for watching Short Circuit. If you want to see more CES coverage, please subscribe, because that's where it's going to be, right here on the channel.